It was just past midnight when I heard the knock. 3 sharp taps against my cabin door, carried on the prairie wind like a cry for help. I lived alone back then, in a weather-worn cabin on the edge of the Wyoming frontier. The moonlight was bright, painting the wide plains silver, and the coyotes sang low in the distance. Most nights I welcomed the silence, but that night, silence shattered with that desperate knock. When I opened the door, there she stood, Lydia, my neighbor's youngest daughter. Barely 18, with her long hair tangled, cheeks streaked with tears, and her dress torn from running through sagebrush. "Please," she whispered, clutching the doorframe. I didn't know where else to go. Her eyes told me everything before her words could. She was frightened, lost, and carrying a burden too heavy for someone so young. I let her in without a second thought. Inside, the fire was low but warm. I wrapped a quilt around her shoulders, and as her trembling slowed, her story spilled out. Her father had arranged for her to marry a man twice her age, a cattle baron with money enough to buy her future like it was stock at an auction. She wanted no part of it. She dreamed of freedom, of raising horses, of finding love on her own terms. But in a world where men signed contracts and women had little say, her voice was drowned out. So she ran. And she ran straight to me. At first, I didn't know what she expected of me. I was no savior, just a widow scraping by on my patch of land, mending fences, tending goats, and trying not to drown in the loneliness that came with prairie nights. But when Lydia looked at me with those pleading eyes, I saw something more than fear. I saw a spark of the girl I once was, the one who had also wanted more than the life others had written for her. We sat by the fire, speaking in whispers as the hours passed. She told me how trapped she felt. How her own mother had turned her face away, saying it was for the best. How she'd rather work herself to the bone on a ranch than be bought like property. Somewhere in that fragile midnight hour, something shifted. I reached for her hand, roughened from ranch work, and I promised her, "You will not be forced into a life you don't choose. Not while I draw breath." Her tears broke then, not of fear, but of relief. She leaned against me, resting her head on my shoulder, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel alone either. The world outside that cabin was still cruel and vast, but in those 30 minutes of whispered plans, hope was born.